not talking about your usual Monopoly or Scrabble here. No. These games are in a league of their own. My name is AJ with Most Amazing, and these are the top 10 cursed paranormal games humans were never meant to play. At number 10 is the bath game, also known as Daruma-san. Formerly known by the name of the spirit that you're about to invite to haunt you, this game can be genuinely lethal, so please tread carefully. But hey, at least you get to have a nice bath for this one. I mean, mostly nice. And yes, you're going to need a tub for this to work. You're gonna want to start this game before you hit the hay tonight, so before bed, fill up your tub and get stark naked before cutting out the lights. Now be super careful as you enter your bathtub in the dark, because you definitely don't want to share the same fate as the ghost you're about to summon. As you sit in the tub while facing your faucet, close your eyes and keep them shut. And as you wash your hair, or massage your scalp if you're bald I guess, you repeat the words, Daruma-san fell down, over and over again until you're finished washing your head. As you chant, you'll imagine a Japanese woman standing in the bathtub, slipping and falling onto a rusty tap which directly impales through her eye, her body going lifelessly limp moments later. As you do this, you'll either hear a sound coming from behind you or feel movement in the water, indicating that you've successfully summoned the ghost. Great. Now, keeping your eyes shut, carefully get out of the bathtub without slipping, leave the bathtub filled till morning, dry yourself off, and close the bathroom door behind you as you leave. Go right to bed without turning any lights on. When you wake up in the morning, the game will begin. As you go about your day, you're gonna feel the presence of the one-eyed woman creeping up behind you, disappearing whenever you turn around. She'll get closer and closer as your day goes on, and do not let her catch you. If the one-eyed woman is getting too close, you're gonna stop tomer, which means stop, and then run away really fast, which should end the game and the woman will leave you alone. If that doesn't work, try shouting Kita while swinging your hand in a chopping motion. Now you must end this game before midnight or else she will keep stalking you and appear in your dreams to take your life like Freddy Krueger. At number 9 is the closet game. I can assure you that there aren't any monsters hiding in your closet. Well, at least not until you play this game, that is. The risks associated with this game involve being possessed by a demon and or being dragged immediately into hell. So don't say I didn't warn you. All you need is a match and maybe a friend if you ain't brave enough. All you need to do is turn out the lights, hang out in your closet, and chant the words, show me the light or leave me in darkness. Now, eventually you should hear some demonic whispering, probably something along the lines of, surprise, mother effer. When you hear the whisper, or anything at all for that matter, you must immediately light your match and hightail it out of the closet. If your matchstick happens to break before you can strike it, or if it doesn't light after the first couple of tries, it's safe to say you can kiss your pretty soul goodbye. But if you do manage to light it and leave in time, congratulations, a demon now haunts your closet. Great. From now on, always open that closet with the light on unless you want to meet your demonic tenant. On second thought, you might as well just board the closet shut, not unless you'd rather risk leaving the door cracked open for a demon to come out and suck the soul out of you while you sleep. If you're enjoying this video so far, please support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Most Amazing, and ringing that notification bell. Coming in at number 8 is the elevator ritual. Have you ever wanted to visit an unholy alternate reality? Well, now you can. For this one, you're gonna need an elevator with at least 10 floors, and if you got any, bring any friends who are just as crazy as you are. Get in the elevator and start visiting floors. The sequence is 4, then 2, then 6, then 2, then 10, then 5, and then 10 again. If any random pedestrian enters or leaves the elevator during the sequence, you've got to start all over again. If you've done it correctly, a ghastly woman should enter the elevator once you stop at the 5th floor. Now, it's crucial that you do not pay this woman no mind. Don't greet her, don't glance her way, don't even acknowledge her existence whatsoever, because if you do, you could kiss your home dimension goodbye. Now, when you reach the 10th floor, you'll notice that everything should be different than when the doors opened the first time. This is your last chance to forfeit the ritual and turn back, returning to the 1st floor, because otherwise, you can step out into this parallel plane. Now, ignore the woman if she asks where you're going, and feel free to roam around and explore this new world, if you dare. Now, in order to return, you must get in the exact same elevator you started in, but getting back to this elevator may be more difficult than it seems, as you may become disorientated and forget which elevator you arrived in, or the elevator may seem to get further and further away from you as you walk towards it, and so on and so forth. Be vigilant and keep your wits about you. If at any point during the ritual you faint or pass out or otherwise lose consciousness, you will likely awake in your own home. However, be sure to carefully examine your surroundings upon waking, as the home to which you have been returned to may not be the one you started out in. At number 7, the 11 miles of hell. Just an 11-mile drive through the woods at night. And at the end of your trip, you get a wish granted, so long as you endure the horrors and don't perish along your way. How bad could it be? Let's find out. Before you get in your car, fixate on what you desire most in life. Then head out alone at night and drive around till you find the 11-mile road. You'll know it's the right one as it'll lead into the woods, it'll appear on your right, and it will have a single lamppost illuminating the entry. Now don't worry, if you really want to find it, you will. So you're gonna be cruising along following these bizarre rules on this empty road. Once you found the road, turn off your radio, and now you're committed, so don't even try to go back as it will end horrifically for you. Now the chilling part about this game is that each mile amps up the horror. In the first mile, it gets strikingly cold, and you have the option to turn on your heater or keep it off, but it's highly recommended you turn it on. By the second mile, if you still haven't turned on your heater, do it or you're probably gonna freeze to death. At the third mile, ignore all the shadows in the trees, no matter how human they may seem or how distracting they are. In the fourth, ignore all voices coming from outside your car, no matter how human they may seem or how convincing they are. By the fifth, ignore the vanishing of both the trees around you and the environment as you enter this liminal space. In the sixth, your radio will turn on. Do not turn it off, and ignore it as best you can. In the seventh mile, continue ignoring all the voices, especially if they're coming from your back seat. In the eighth, your headlights may start to flicker, and if it does, don't try to fix the flickering headlights, simply ignore it and keep moving forward. By the ninth mile, your vehicle's probably gonna stall, and when you roll to a stop, close your eyes as hard as you can and keep facing forward. Try to start your car back up without opening your freaking eyes no matter what. When your start backs up again, open your eyes and keep rolling forward. In the 10th mile, under any circumstances, do not look in the rearview mirror unless you want to face certain death. In the 11th mile, this is the final mile, if you've reached it this far, you're unlike most people and you probably have extreme luck and you probably possess no fear. Your vehicle may lose power but continue to move, and if this happens, and normally I would never advise you do this, but don't open your damn eyes. For the love of God and all things holy, no matter what voices you hear in your head, no matter how hot or cold it is, do not open your damn eyes. When the power of your car returns, you may open your eyes and you're probably gonna see some old-fashioned buildings and a brick wall to prevent you from going ahead. Stop your car, and when you exit, you're gonna find yourself miraculously parked in your driveway. If you wish for something physical, check your trunk or back seat, and if not, wait up to 30 days for your wish to come true.
Number 4, power. This one comes from a person who has done paranormal investigation for a long time, being a part of 3 different groups over the years. When asked what his scariest experience and clearest evidence was, he shared this story. He was investigating a large home and was seated in a children's bedroom with 2 other investigators. They were sat in the almost complete darkness as they called out to the child's spirit. They suddenly then heard a loud popping noise, which he describes as similar to a weapon being fired. He says that there was no light, no heat, or even smell that came along with the noise. It just seemed to come and go out of nowhere. At the same time, all the power in the house completely shut off. They inspected the room afterwards and found nothing that could have caused the loud popping sound. They also have it on recording, so they know that they didn't just imagine it. Number 3, help me. This investigator was invited to stay overnight at a guild hall in London, where they reported having things disappear from their bedrooms only to turn up in the basement. The basement apparently being the hub for the majority of activity. They set up sound recorders, cameras, and other equipment in the basement before locking the door, and setting up security cameras to ensure that nobody went in or out. The next day when they returned, they found that nothing appeared to have been touched, and they started going through all the recordings and tapes. All of them were empty except for one. An hour after everyone left the building, he can hear 2 voices talking, and one that seems to ask, "Is that the bathroom?" He also heard the voice of a weak-sounding woman saying, "Please help me." About 15 minutes later, it says again, "Oh God, Paul, please help me." The freakiest part of this story being that the name of the paranormal investigator was Paul. Ghost.
And is Sam and Colby. Paranormal YouTubers Sam and Colby visited the ship Queen Mary and spoke with real demons that night. The most notorious location on the ship for paranormal activity is room B340, and that's where the pair stayed. Reports claim someone knocks on the door in the middle of the night, bathroom lights turning on by themselves, the sink faucet turning on and off on its own, and unexplained bathroom doors shutting. Some guests have reported the covers of their bed being pulled off while asleep and waking to see a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. Now when Sam and Colby were there, they communicated with some sort of demon through knocks, and they got it all on camera. The audio of the video truly gives me chills, being no and 2 knocks being yes. It's cool and creepy, but when questions about religion, heaven, and hell are asked, the boys pack it up and leave as things go too far. At one point, it appears that Sam is in a trance-like state, which they believe was the demon trying to pull energy energy from him. It's so creepy and one of their scariest videos in my opinion. Oh, and Sam, Colby, if you're watching this, hi, I love you guys. Number 9. Shane and Ryan. The house is supposed to be haunted not only by the 3 people who have died inside it, but also by a demon who takes the form of a young girl named Sally. Now the landlord of the Sally house revealed that previous tenants had been Satanists, sacrificing animals and holding rituals in the basement, where a large pentagram was burned into the floor. Now it's believed that this activity summoned more demons, of which some apparently reside in the large hole in the back of the basement wall. Ryan and Shane invited Eric Ensbrenner, a paranormal investigator, into the house. The 3 set up the stuffed animals in the nursery into a circle with the maglite flashlight on, set to between on and off, and call for Sally. With no result, they moved to the kitchen, setting up the flashlight the same way and asking for any demons to turn on the light. The flashlight turned on when Shane says, "If you don't like us, turn it on," and it turns off when Eric asks them to. They then move to the basement and set up another flashlight, also set between on and off. Shane then lies down on the pentagram, asking the demons to turn the light on, which it does. Yeah, how did they not leave immediately? Ugh. Number 8. Seth Bordon. Paranormal YouTuber Seth Bordon posted a video detailing his experience in Edinburgh's underground vaults, claiming he was targeted by a ghost. The footage starts off normal enough, and they're soon taken deeper into the chambers and shown areas such as coven meeting spots. After the tour guide warns the group of people's changes in behavior in the vaults, Seth said he heard a voice. Then one of the cameramen soon notices his camera is beginning to malfunction, and more equipment begins to stop working, with lights failing to switch on and cameras continuing to act strangely. The group asks any spirits to come forward before they all hear footsteps. Seeking to speak with the Watcher, they ask him if the noises are him. The Watcher is supposedly a ghost who gets a bit sick of strangers intruding in his space and may have been a guard or thief in the 18th century. "Rattle the gates, throw something if we're intruding. Do what you normally do, chase us out," they say. While he doesn't respond in real time, the group replay a recording where a voice seems to reply, "Get out." Then they all move on to a final room and ask the ghost to enter the middle of the room. Seth finally feels the need to leave, claiming to have a pounding chest and a wave of nausea. Back under normal lighting, they realize when the cameramen have a scratch on his face. Yeah, that's a no for me. Number 7. Kalani Smith and Exploring with Josh. Professional ghost hunter Kalani Smith and Canadian YouTuber known as Exploring with Josh performed a blood ritual sacrifice to the terrifying Robert the Doll. Now Robert lives in a museum in Key West, Florida, and the doll, a boy dressed in a sailor suit holding a small dog, is said to have been gifted to a boy who grew to be an eccentric artist. Robert allegedly has supernatural abilities that allow him to move and giggle. The doll is rumored to curse people who film or video him without permission, and we didn't ask, we didn't pick him up, and he stayed in his case while we were outside the room, but once we unveiled him, an electric and heavy feeling filled the air, Kalani said of the experience. We got some voices that came through our voice recorder and equipment going off in the chamber, which said it wanted us to stay. Now many of the people that have come in here and looked into Robert's eyes have experienced car troubles, marriage troubles, and some people have even gotten cancer. Now Josh posted an hour-long haunting YouTube video about their experience that showed the pair's blood offering to Robert. Now things quickly turned negative. We got attacked after the blood ritual was performed and felt like we caught on fire. It got insanely hot, and then we both ended up throwing up. Josh films himself struggling to breathe before almost throwing up, and he claimed that since shooting the clip, he has suffered bad luck that included a canceled flight, lost baggage, and inflammation and pain in his eye. He said he apologized to Robert and planned to undergo a cleanse, as he can't take this anymore. Number 6. Ghost Hunters. The team headed to Bacon's Castle in Surrey County, Virginia, where people have reported seeing ghostly orbs for decades. Not only that, but there are spectral fireballs, floating heads, disembodied voices, all of which have been seen and heard at the estate. Now one of the creepiest things seen at the castle is the disembodied head of an African American woman. During colonial times, the property lodged as many as 300 slaves. Now things are also known to move on their own, chairs rock, books fly off the shelves, doors close all by themselves, and now when the team went here, as Steve walked through the house, he stopped to read some writing on the wall. As he reads it aloud, he starts hearing a sad moaning coming from the other room. Now the sobbing only gets louder as they look for the source, which is terrifying. Number 5. Selena Spooky Boo. Selena Spooky Boo is a self-proclaimed psychic who has been able to see ghosts her entire life. She goes on adventures to haunted places, but she also sleepwalks and uploads the footage online. She has written 3 paranormal books, and she claimed in a 2022 video that she isn't talking to herself when she's sleepwalking, that she's communicating with the dead. I was recently in Salem and a psychic told me I'm clairvoyant, she explained. And when I'm sleepwalking, I'm not actually talking in my dreams, I'm talking to ghosts. Keep that in mind. The clip then cuts to black and white footage of her sitting in an office chair in her nightgown having a series of odd conversations. Were the 70s sick? She asked, and in the comments she noted that her house was built in the 70s. A number of viewers pointed out the ghost orbs they saw in the video, including one that flew past the screen right before she raised an imaginary weapon. She was standing and appeared to be having a heated conversation when she said, "Well, I'm not telling her, you tell her." She then held up her middle finger to flip off the ghost she was allegedly arguing with. Now shout out to Selena and Taylor, but that is so creepy, and I've never heard of someone sleepwalking and talking being related to ghosts, and it's all very interesting to me.
At number 6 is the devil face. For this one, you gather 12 black candles, which, let's be real, isn't something most people have lying around, so you're probably gonna have to hit up the store for those. Then you head to a dark bathroom just before the clock strikes midnight. Now you light those candles, shut your eyes, and wait for the witching hour. When the clock strikes 12, open your eyes, and expecting to see your reflection, instead you will see the devil himself. Now, this is a solo game, so if you decide to bring a friend along for the ride, it's likely you or your homie will succumb to demonic possession. Seriously guys, possession is no joke, so make sure you try this one alone. At number 5 is the midnight game. What better way to spend your evening than inviting a ghost into your home and having it chase you around the dark for 3.5 hours? The setup: grab some paper, a pin, and get ready to shed a little bodily fluids. Don't worry, just a drop. You're gonna write your names at a drop from your pricked finger and place those papers by the front door. Unfortunately, your door needs to be made of wood for this to work, so if you're not a pioneer in a log cabin, then you're gonna have to sit this one out. Then knock on that door 22 times, with the last knock coming as the clock directly strikes midnight. Then blow out a candle, and boom, congratulations, you've just summoned the Midnight Man. Now, the goal is simple but quite nerve-wracking. Stay away from the Midnight Man until 3:33 a.m. This means wandering around with your candle, hoping not to encounter the ghostly being. And if your candle decides to snuff out, it's panic time, as you've got 10 seconds to light her back up. If you fail, you will be attacked by the Midnight Man, who will make you hallucinate your worst fears until 3:33. Now, you won't actually be able to see the Midnight Man, but you can tell he's nearby if the room gets icy, your candle plays dead, or if you start hearing whispers in the dark. That's your cue to avoid a certain someone. At number 4 is hide and go seek alone. Also known as one-man hide and seek, this takes regular hide and seek to a whole new level of spookiness. Despite the title, you'll actually be playing this game with a doll that's supposedly possessed by a spirit. Great. So here's what you do. You're gonna start off innocently enough by tearing the stuffing out of the doll and replacing it with uncooked rice and one of your own fingernails. Then you dunk this unsettling creation in water. Could be a sink or bathtub, your choice. Next comes the really bizarre part. After you've had your turn seeking the doll, which shouldn't be too scary considering it's an inanimate object and you'll probably find it in the same spot you left it in, it's time to stab the doll, douse it in salt water, and let it do the seeking. And guess who's hiding? You. Good luck with that. At number 3 are the 3 Kings. This game will allow you to access the Shadow Realm. Now, it's not a physical place that you can stroll into, it's more like a place which we've all been to before in your dreams that you can't quite remember. Now, there are a bunch of extensive steps to get this to work, and if you mess up, it could get real messy. First, you're gonna need to be stone cold sober to start, so don't get messed up on any substances or even booze. And if your life is going haywire or you're doing this to escape from reality, it's also a bad idea. Preparation is super key. You're gonna need the following: a large quiet room, preferably without windows, like a basement, or at least windows that can be covered up, a pack of candles, a bucket of water in a mug, a fan, 2 large mirrors, 3 chairs, and a little alarm clock, an active, fully charged cell phone, and a small toy or object from your childhood. Yeah, this one needs a lot. Basically, you're gonna set the chair facing north, have the 2 chairs also facing north next to it, prop up a mirror on each side, put the water in front of you, and sit around until you summon demons. Pretty fun. At number 2 is the Gallery of Henry Beauchamp. This one's here at number 2 because, while it's the most interesting since you get to explore an art gallery made from bodily components of the artists, you will have to be at a specific bar in Paris. The exact bar is a mystery, so you're gonna have to go bar hopping till you find the right one. Now, if you find the right bar and if you play your cards right, you might get to see these paintings by this guy named Henry Beauchamp. But it's not as easy as just walking in. You gotta prove you're a big fan by ordering a special drink the right way and answering tricky questions. And if you mess up, apparently, you get nightmares for days, which isn't fun. And don't even think about trying to cheat your way through either. Assuming you get past all of that, you'll finally get in to see the paintings, but they're not your typical art. It's crazy stuff, painted with all sorts of different bodily fluids apparently. Rumor has it that the artist went all out using his own body parts to create some of this freaky artwork. Now if you ever actually get to see it, let me know how it goes and I'll buy you a drink and you can spill all the details. At number 1 is Bloody Mary. This game is undoubtedly the most well-known scary ritual, and it's also the simplest to perform. All you gotta do is chant Bloody Mary several times while looking at yourself in a mirror in a pitch black room, though some versions suggest doing it with a candle. The idea is that if you summon her, Bloody Mary will pop up in the mirror looking pretty terrifying, like a corpse, a witch, or a ghost even. I always imagined her kind of looking like the nun from the Conjuring movies. And the chilling part is that they say that she's not there to exchange pleasantries. No. She's gonna go all in trying to harm you in nasty ways, from strangling to stealing your soul or even gouging your eyeballs out. She's not here for a game of patty cake, y'all. This is a demon you're confronting. It's recommended that you try this with friends, so if things go south, at least you won't be facing your doom solo. But seriously, better to skip all these spirit games and just stick to safer pastimes.
Number 4. Most Haunted. One of the most famous hauntings of the Wentworth Woodhouse is the first Earl of the house walking down the main stairs of the house. Only he's headless, and the Most Haunted crew captured footage of him. Carl Beatty, who was filming, said, "We've never seen anything like this before, and we really don't have an explanation for what we saw. The replay of the filming clearly shows the vision in detail. It's a weird place. There's a ghost there that stands still during his hauntings, leading many people to think he's a statue, and with shadows tracing the walls and dark figures standing in the doorways, the Most Haunted team were certainly not alone. They heard footsteps, ghostly laughter, opera singing, whistling, and door rattling sounds as if being opened, only it wasn't, as it was locked and did not have a handle." Number 3. Jane Harris. Warning: looking into these dolls' eyes can cause you to have health issues or even get haunted. Please watch at your own risk. Peggy the doll is a 3-foot tall doll that has a blonde hair bob with glassy blue eyes, and it's considered to be the most haunted and dangerous doll in the world. After purchasing the doll at a car boot sale, the owner began having nightmares and felt that she was being haunted by the doll. She contacted Jane Harris, a paranormal and haunted doll investigator, and eventually sent the doll to her. Jane and her team of psychics began working with the doll, running experiments or having paranormal sessions with it, and began posting photos and videos of the doll online. That is when she started receiving comments from people who had seen the video, and immediately after viewing it began to have chest pain, nausea, and or crippling headaches. So yes, she can haunt you through a screen. Jane has come to the conclusion that the doll is possessed by the spirit of a woman who was born in 1946 who died of a chest-related condition like asthma. Now, Peggy's picture alone is said to cause anxiety, heart attacks, and headaches. I can't believe Jane spent a bunch of time with that doll when she could harm her so much. Number 2. Mackie and Amanda. This ghost hunting duo on YouTube is something else. They both have supernatural abilities, and they both just so happen to be able to see and communicate with spirits. Not to mention that both of their houses are haunted. Now, they often explore hotels and buildings, but in my opinion, one of the craziest videos they've done is when they were investigating Mackie's house. Now, Amanda has a stronger ability being a medium than Mackie, and they both felt a presence and heard noises in the house. They communicated with him using their devices, but then through the conversation, things got weird. Amanda finally realized that the friend they were talking to left, and they were talking to another entity who was pretending to be the friend. Things got even creepier when Amanda looked outside the doors by the porch and saw some sort of demon that freaked the both of them out. Amanda got so scared and said she'd never seen a creature like that before. She then went outside face to face to tell the creature to get off the property and that it wasn't welcome there. After she did that, it left, but she said it was the scariest moment of her life, and it sure does sound like it. And coming in at number 1 is Ghost Adventures. During a Halloween special, the Route 666 episode sees the crew travel to not one but 2 haunted locations: infamous DeSoto Hotel and Goatman's Bridge. First, at the DeSoto Hotel, known for its history of devil-worshipping rituals, the crew gets all sort of unexplainable occurrences, such as loud knocks and audible footsteps, 3 visible apparitions standing together, fire, and one of the X cameras being ripped off the wall. And at Goatman's Bridge, Ashley seems to get possessed by some sort of demonic entity, calling out for it, and then gets audibly assaulted by an unforce, leaving a mark on her head. Zach felt like he was being strangled, and Aaron was thrown nearly 20 feet by something. Along with capturing a pair of free-floating red eyes at the entrance of the forest, Goatman's Bridge became one of the most active locations explored by the Ghost Adventures crew, and is perhaps the scariest.
List at number 10, Poltergeist. The case that inspired the 1982 classic Poltergeist. Yeah, these things are real, apparently. Back in 1958, the Herman house in New York would never be the same ever again after this one fateful day. James Herman from Long Island got a phone call one night from his wife Lucille. She tells him that bottles of different substances had their lids popped off. In different rooms, there were different jars and different bottles, whatever the case was, just lids were just popping off in random rooms. She heard the popping and had to go check it out for herself. One of the items was a vial of holy water. Herman told the family to stay calm, you know, there's probably a reasonable explanation for everything going on. The classic dad move. Less than a week goes by, it happens again, but this time, Herman witnessed it. Bottles in his bathroom began moving around by themselves by some force. The police came, no explanation. Then a priest came along as well, nothing changed. Lucille Herman claims that she still hasn't seen Poltergeist, and to be fair, I wouldn't watch that movie either. The Herman's house inspired the movie with weird happenings and such, but there weren't any skeletons jumping out of pools, you know? There weren't any skeletons attacking the family. Lucille also said that she hadn't seen it because she had her own nightmare. The actress who played Diane, Jo Beth Williams, in the movie Poltergeist, said in an interview that while they were filming, she would have to go into a huge tank of what she thought were plastic skeletons and like muddy water. She later found out that these bones were in fact real human bones. Because yeah, at the time, human bones were cheaper. Production saw nothing wrong with this idea. Nice, that's horrible. So she spent like 5 days filming with human bones. I'm gonna be sick. That's the worst thing I've ever read. Number 9, the Snedeker house. This is a classic Ed and Lorraine Warren ghost story. It was the main inspiration of the Haunting in Connecticut movie. Ed and Lorraine got a call from owners of the home saying that their son was experiencing personality changes. Now at first, maybe you'd laugh at that call if you were on the other end. Maybe he's just growing up, maybe he's moody, whatever, you know. This was not the case at all. These changes were violent in nature, and on top of that, and another pretty obvious issue in the home, they were seeing apparitions just all around their house. Son's acting odd, and also, we have ghosts. There's one right there, look at it. So Ed and Lorraine were of course interested in what was going on. Old house in Southington, Connecticut, Alan and Carmen Snedeker then found these tools. Old tools used by morticians in their home. Yep, their home was once upon a time a funeral parlor. One day when Carmen was mopping the floor, it turned bloody red all of a sudden and it began to smell foul. So there was a lot of happenings going on. Ed and Lorraine came to one conclusion: demons. Number 8, the Villisca house. Skeptics have left believers. It's always nice to see that line on a website about a haunted house. You're like, cool, debit, I guess. Okay, where to start with this one? It goes back to June 10th, 1912. The Moore family was sadly killed, but it's a crime that has still never been solved. Not saying that ghosts did it, that's disrespectful. I'm not saying that this horrible crime was done by a ghost or anything spooky. This was somebody who got away with it, and it's horrible. But afterwards, the house, as you would assume, turned into some sort of an attraction. Guests would end up paying hundreds of dollars to stay at this place. Why do people do this? A paranormal investigator stayed there back in 2014 and then afterwards ended up taking his own life after just one night there. Whatever's going on here, just leave it alone. That's my opinion.
Number 5, the haunted Elsa doll. Now the Warrens were no strangers when it came to haunted dolls, but after having dealt with Annabelle, I doubt they'd have wanted any part in this. In 2013, the Madonia family in Houston got an Elsa doll from Frozen for their young daughter. It would sing and say phrases from the movie. Everything was pretty normal for the first 2 years, but according to their mother, Emily Madonia, the doll started to go back and forth between English and Spanish, just out of nowhere. There was no button for it, just completely random. They had the doll all the way up until 2019, and during this whole time they never even had to change the doll's batteries. And the creepiest part, Elsa would occasionally say phrases even when its power was switched off. Family did what anyone would do in this situation. They chucked Elsa in the trash, but weeks later they found her in the basement. They attempted to get rid of the doll again, putting the doll in the trash all the way at the bottom of the bin right before the garbage was collected for the day. Then they left town for a few days, but when they got back, guess who was sitting in their backyard? Elsa had returned yet again. Now, the most logical explanation is that someone was playing a prank. According to the mother, though, the doll was taken away by the garbage men, and the doll in the backyard had a distinctive mark that her daughter had left on it years before, so it seemed to be the same one. I'm not going to accuse the dad, but all I know is I know what I'd do if my family was freaked out by a doll and wanted to get rid of it, so I'd probably have some fun. Anyway, at number 4, we have the Hopkinsville goblin encounter. Goblins, you don't hear about many real-life goblin encounters. Unfortunately, this is just another alien encounter case. La-di-da. Anyway, not sure how goblin became part of the name. In August of 1955 in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, the Sutton and Taylor families witnessed strange lights streaking across the sky. Later that night, they heard odd noises outside of the farmhouse, including scratching, tapping, and footsteps on the roof. The situation took a even more bizarre turn when the families spotted small, silver-skinned beings about 2 to 3 feet tall with large glowing eyes, long arms, and sharp claws. Terrified, they fired at the creatures, but the bullets seemed to have no effect, so the families called the police, who found no evidence of intruders. They ended up going to the police station and recounted their experience. Next up, we have the Bell Witch. The story goes that in rural Tennessee, back between 1817 and 1821, the Bell family, John Bell, his wife Lucy, and their children, came under attack by an unseen aggressive entity. The Bells lived in a settlement called Red River near Adams, Tennessee. The strange occurrences began in 1817 when the family reported hearing unexplained knocking on the walls of their home. And over time, these noises escalated into worse things. Whatever this entity was, it started interacting with the family, speaking to them, and even causing physical harm. It became known as the Bell Witch. Apparently, it had a very distinctive voice, but it could also mimic the voices of other people. John Bell, in particular, suffered physical attacks from the entity. He experienced choking, slapping, pinching, spanking, which contributed to his declining health. One theory is that the Bell Witch was connected to a neighbor named Kate Batts. She was involved in a property dispute with the Bell family and was thought to be responsible for the supernatural events. John's health deteriorated rapidly, and eventually he passed away in 1820. The Bell Witch was said to have taken credit for his death, claiming to have poisoned him. After John's death, things eventually died down. No pun intended. At number 2, we have the Germana Cele possession. Clara Germana Cele was a 16-year-old South African girl attending a Roman Catholic mission school. In 1906, she started exhibiting disturbing behavior. She would speak in languages she had seemingly never learned: Polish, German, and French. She would also show aversion to sacred objects and symbols. Witnesses reported that Clara exhibited superhuman strength during her episodes, overpowering multiple people trying to restrain her. Clara reacted violently to religious symbols, crosses, holy water, prayers, leading many to believe that she had been possessed by some sort of dark force. The local Catholic priest, Father Erasmus Horner, was called to investigate Clara's condition. After witnessing her behavior and conducting interviews, he became convinced that Clara was possessed by a malevolent entity. Several exorcism attempts were made on Clara. The exorcisms were performed by Father Erasmus Horner and a team of priests. After this series of exorcisms, first few didn't really take, Clara was reported to have finally been freed from this demonic possession, and she apparently returned to a normal state with no memory of the events that had transpired during her possession. Finally, though, we have Houska Castle. This place is said to be a full-on gateway to hell. Forget about ghosts murmuring in the night or slamming doors. Here there are said to be full-on winged demonic monsters lurking in the shadows. In the Czech countryside sits Houska Castle. It was built in the second half of the 13th century, sitting over an incredibly deep pit in the ground. The strange thing about the castle is that it sits in the middle of nowhere. There's no water source nearby, no trade route. It wasn't built in any strategically advantageous place. So what was this castle built for? Well, it all has to do with the giant hole it sits on top of, a hole that is said to be a gateway to hell. Before Houska Castle was erected, locals would report strange phenomena surrounding the pit. Winged monsters were said to fly forth from its depths, and it was so deep that nobody could see the bottom. You'd have to be lowered down to see what was in there, and one story goes that a man did volunteer to check things out, and whatever he saw turned his hair gray and made him lose his mind. So Houska Castle was built, fortress built, not to keep invaders out, but to keep demonic forces in. The place is so notorious that back in World War II, members of the SS were said to perform dark rituals at the castle, which sounds like pure fiction until you read about how into the occult they actually were, so that's not that surprising.
A small outpost located in Afghanistan has been widely regarded by locals as well as US, British, and Soviet soldiers alike as one of the most haunted military bases in the world, which is really no surprise when you consider the sheer amount of people who have died there during international times of conflict. One US Marine even took to Reddit to share his experience at the base, writing, "My unit's motto was not for myself but for the country. If I knew what I was going to have to witness there, I would have not done it for myself, and I also would have not done it for my country." Apparently during his time at the remote base, he and 2 other troops had stumbled across some bones while setting up their stations, and then some more bones, and then some more. That night during his watch, the soldier began seeing things, flashes of light that looked like weapons fire but were accompanied by no sound. In the weeks that followed, the lights continued to appear, but it wasn't until about week 3 that the soldier became seriously unsettled. One night, while on watch anticipating the appearance of the lights, the soldier heard an angry whisper, "Brozai Ruzie." It was Russian. The soldier, terrified, reached for his weapon and aimed at where the sound had originated from, but to his surprise, he was completely alone. A few weeks later, the soldier learned that prior to his service, the Soviets had actually set up base at that camp, and each and every one of them was killed in a pretty gruesome way. It is likely that the bones the American soldiers dug up on the first day had in fact belonged to the long-forgotten Soviet soldiers, and the Soviets weren't happy about their grave sites being disturbed.
This next story is called Don't Come In. It's a testimonial from an anonymous British soldier from a book called Tales from the Grid Squares, which features paranormal accounts from military personnel. This British soldier was stationed in Helmand, Afghanistan. The soldier was on watch with his partner. They'd pulled their rover up beside some sort of barn-looking building on a ridge. The rest of the soldiers had set up their camp down the valley. The two decided that one would sleep while the other kept watch. Well, in the middle of the night, they were about to switch shifts when all of a sudden they heard something bang into their vehicle. They got out to look, but there was nothing. It did continue to hear a loud banging sound though, this time coming from the inside of that metal barn looking structure that they'd posted up next to. They got a little closer and noticed that the door was chained up and rusted. They decided to grab the bolt cutters, but then the banging stopped. From inside, they heard what sounded like a whisper telling them, "Don't come in." It repeated over and over. The two rushed back down to the campsite to inform the base commander. Morning comes and the explosive ordnance disposal unit is called in. They safely open the door only to find that a mine had been wired to it. And inside are nothing but human bones and red-stained walls. It turned out the place had been locked down for a very long time. An Afghani told the soldier that Russians had butchered an entire village around there. Whoever had been whispering at the soldiers from inside, they'd been dead a long time.
In April of 2004, an American Marine sniper had been deployed to Fallujah, Iraq. During the Marine's time abroad, while patrolling the streets, he noticed an enemy taking aim. The Marine pulled out his weapon and aimed directly for the head of the man, but he missed, and so in an effort to ensure the target didn't escape or retaliate, the Marine fired several times into the body of the man, who then died a slow and painful death. The entire time the man was dying, he was screaming for help, but help never came, and in the man's final moments, he looked the Marine dead in the eye with the coldest stare the US soldier had ever seen. The Marine retreated back to camp, and later that night, he laid his head down to rest. It wasn't long after the soldier had finally fallen asleep that he felt someone climb on top of him and begin to attack him. He struggled momentarily before leaping out of bed, ready to attack whoever had been attempting to hold him down, but to his surprise, he was completely alone. It was then that the Marine came to the conclusion that what had attacked him wasn't human, but rather it was the spirit of the man who he had killed earlier that day, hungry for revenge.
The first thing that comes to mind when I say the word gremlins is probably the classic 1984 movie, but gremlins date back long before that, and the story behind them is actually quite eerie. It's always gotten under my skin. Tales about little creatures like fairies tampering with things, that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, but the term gremlin really started being used in the late 1920s, and to some, these creatures weren't just folklore creations, they were a very real and immediate threat. Pilots during World War I and World War II started spotting little creatures on the wings of their planes tampering with the aircraft. The stories began with British Royal Air Force pilots during World War I. They claimed that tiny, mischievous creatures called gremlins were intentionally causing technical problems during their flights. The stories became even more prominent during World War II, where they became so widespread that gremlins even appeared in military training manuals. Now, it's pretty clear that this was a case of something similar to mass hysteria, the stress of warfare. Up in the air, it must have been unbearable, especially in planes that often did experience mechanical issues. I think having a creature to blame these mechanical failures on almost helped the pilots cope with the fear and uncertainty they were experiencing at the time. But that doesn't make these stories any less spooky.
During World War II, a British company of soldiers was stationed in a remote village in Switzerland. For a while, things were normal, until they weren't. Soldiers at the base began to notice that certain things, wood, tarps, and valuables had started to go missing. The disappearances were noted, but no action was really taken. That is, until a person went missing. A young person. And then more young people, and then a private. It was then that the rumors began to spread. Rumors of monsters living in the Swiss mountains. One night while standing guard at the camp, a group of soldiers noticed a large shadow. Thinking it might belong to the culprit, they chased it out of the village and into the forest, which is where they stumbled across a small cave. To the soldiers' dismay, when they looked inside the cave, there was no one there. No one living, that is. Upon further investigation, the soldiers located the body of the British private. He had been wounded through the heart, and surrounding him were the half-eaten bodies of the other missing young people. I'm not exactly sure if this story can be classified as paranormal, but it is seriously disturbing, and in my opinion, definitely worth the mention.
In our number 10 spot, we have Emily the Ghost. When this storyteller was younger, their family moved in with their grandparents as one of the grandparents was suffering from an illness and needed extra care. Her grandmother had a sister named Emily who had passed away, but when she was alive, she was very mentally ill and would chase the family around with knives before she was hospitalized. It was not even 3 nights since she had passed when the whole family heard sharp rapping sounds to the door. Apparently the neighbors heard it too, and when her dad went to see who it was, no one was there. There was nowhere to hide, so it was rather strange that it kept happening. Everyone spoke about it besides her grandma. When questioned why she hadn't said anything, her grandmother said, "You know, when Emily was younger, she was always strange. She used to run to my room in the middle of the night, hammer on the door, and run away." They immediately felt panic move over them. The family then became convinced that it was Emily's ghost, and suddenly they were skeptics no longer. In our number 9 spot, we have the animal omen. This storyteller has always been a bit of a skeptic when it comes to stuff like this, but this story in particular, they could not deny. In their culture, when an animal comes to you in the middle of the night, howling or crying, it's a bad omen, and you are told that you should chase it off. Well, one night, he heard a cat whining and a crying noise by the front door. He checked it out, and the cat was sitting on his front porch just going berserk. "I tried to shoo it away," he said. The next morning, he got a call that his cousin was in a car accident. Wow, that's nuts. I actually once had a hurt coyote sleep beside my living room window, and now that I think about it, it was around the time when I lost a family member as well, so pretty interesting.
Back in 2017, this video started spreading online and it had people pretty creeped out. It was filmed at Phuket International Airport in Thailand. The story goes that a pilot was the one who caught it. The camera is pointed at this jet bridge, the tunnel thing that connects the airport gate to the plane, and you can clearly see these shadowy human shapes moving inside it. The problem is, the jet bridge was supposed to be completely empty. No boarding, no staff. Yet the figures look like they're just walking along, like normal passengers heading to their seats. The footage blew up on Thai social media first before jumping over to international sites. The story goes the airport is haunted, tied to accidents that have happened there in the past. The figures don't move like random light flares. They have the shape and pace of actual people. The video never really got a clear explanation. On March 28, 2018, a passenger flying over the Aegean Sea to Athens, Greece captured this footage. Harry Forides filmed this really strange object from his plane window that looked like it was keeping pace with the jet. He shared the footage on YouTube and his Facebook page, writing, "It appears to be flying away at right angles from our commercial jet, and somehow without either of us appearing to turn, we end up almost following it." The object in the video looks like a disc sort of thing, moving in a way that doesn't match a normal plane. One YouTube comment read, "That was no plane, that was a huge disc." Another said, "I've never seen a UFO leave a trail like this one. However, the way it turned is something else." Now, of course, not everyone was convinced of the UFO part. Some argued it was just a jet leaving a contrail, pointing out that it was flying at about a 90-degree angle from Carrie's plane. Still, I mean, the footage is pretty crazy looking. I mean, this thing looks big. On December 29th of 1972, Eastern Airlines Flight 401 crashed in the Florida Everglades while on its way from New York to Miami. The crash happened late at night, and it was deadly. 101 people lost their lives, including all 3 cockpit crew members, 2 flight attendants, and most of the passengers. The crew had gotten distracted by a burnt-out landing gear light. The captain accidentally bumped the yoke, turning off the autopilot, and the plane slowly lost altitude without anyone noticing. In the months and years after the crash, though, rumors started spreading among Eastern Airline employees and some passengers about ghostly sightings. People started saying they were catching glimpses of the deceased crew members, Captain Loft and First Officer Repo, sitting in other planes. The sightings were supposedly only on planes that had parts salvaged from Flight 401. The CEO at the time, Frank Borman, called the stories, quote, garbage. Still, the sightings were happening so often that Eastern actually went to the trouble of removing the salvaged parts from the planes. Fun fact, some of those parts ended up in Ed and Lorraine Warren's occult museum. This one's really, really weird. So a video went viral of what looks like human figures standing on clouds. It sounds insane, but this footage came from a passenger on a commercial flight, and at first you just see 2 shapes standing there on the cloud cover. Then the camera pans and suddenly there are more of them, all spaced out, casually hanging out in the sky. I'm not sure what to make of this, but it really does kind of look like people are standing on the clouds. It's pretty nuts. People online went absolutely bananas over this. Myra Moore, a paranormal content creator, posted the clip on X and said, "A passenger on a commercial airline captures what appears to be multiple beings standing on cloud cover. What is going on?" And she tagged it with aliens and paranormal, which just made the speculation explode. Some people have been joking, or maybe not joking, that it's aliens. Others think it's some kind of weird atmospheric effect. I'm not sure what to make of this, but it really does kind of look like people are standing on the clouds. It's crazy. They look to have proportions of actual humans. But I don't know, what do you all think of this one? Make sure to comment down below. Back in October of 2023, 2 videos were posted showing what looked like the same UFO in completely different places. The first clip, uploaded on October 17th to the YouTube channel Lufos, shows a silver orb hovering over Sarasota Bradenton Airport. The caption read, "A surreal daytime sighting of a steady silver orb over SRQ. Was it a drone, balloon, or something beyond our understanding?" Then the next day, another video popped up of a spinning, flying saucer-like thing filmed from a plane flying from Bogota to Salento in Colombia. People immediately noticed the similarities here. The UFOs in both videos looked almost identical, and some pointed out they even resembled the Pentagon's 2015 gimbal video, which was released in 2020, showing a strange object moving in ways that no known aircraft can. Back in 2023, a Russian flight was delayed after a passenger freaked out. just before takeoff, a 37-year-old man started shouting that he could see 3 ghosts of Wagner mercenaries who were watching him. Footage of the incident was shared online by an advisor to Ukraine's Interior Ministry, with English subtitles added. In it, the passenger can be heard panicking, yelling, "Stop the takeoff, do it fast, stop the takeoff quickly, do it fast, I can see, stop the takeoff, make a stop." According to Russian news outlets, the man was calm when he first boarded, but suddenly jumped up claiming he was being followed by unknown people from the Wagner private military company. Then he tried to open the plane door and get into the flight deck. Cabin crew couldn't calm him down, so he was eventually just escorted off, and the flight ended up departing about 2 hours late. Now, obviously, this man was suffering from a mental health episode of some kind. Some are saying potential PTSD. I don't think there's been more info on this released to the public, so it's not clear what exactly triggered his hallucinations, but the man is now under care, thankfully. Back in April of 2012, a passenger on a flight over Seoul, South Korea, captured a strange oval white object in the sky, and the video quickly went viral. People were pretty divided over the footage. Aliens for some, and everyday objects like plastic bags or parachutes for others. It's kind of blurry, but you can still make out its shape. The way it moves just doesn't feel normal. Some commenters at the time said it could be a water droplet on the window. I mean, it kind of looks like that at first, but then it moves across the screen and flies up, so that's not the case. Some also said it could be a plastic bag or parachute, but again, the way it moves seems to debunk that as well. So, as always, what do you think? This next story comes from a now deleted Reddit user posting in a thread about creepy aviation stories. They wrote, "A couple years ago, flying from Boise to either LA or San Diego, we were cruising along at 39,000 at night. I had the habit of turning my traffic alert and collision avoidance system onto the setting with expanded view, so you could see airplanes 10,000 plus feet above you. I noticed a set of lights paralleling us, and thinking it was just another plane, I didn't say anything, but then I noticed it wasn't on the TCAS, and it looks higher than us, but still within reason for it to be on the TCAS at 49,000. I keep watching, and finally I ask the captain if he sees those lights, and he says, yeah, probably another plane. And I say, man, I don't know, I've been watching it for a while. No flashing for a beacon or strobe, nothing obvious like that. He says, huh? And we sit there for a few more minutes discussing it, and finally I asked air traffic control, do you have anyone that's a couple miles ahead of us and maybe more than 10,000 feet above us? ATC says, nope, we don't show anything on our end. So we sit there for a few more minutes and ask again with the next sector, and they say, nope, we don't see anything here, but descend and maintain. We descended, and the lights continued on. We were in a part of the world that's pretty notorious for unexplainable things, around central southern Nevada. Don't know what it was, but sometimes I still think about it and wonder. Back in 1975, retired pilot Carlos de los Santos had one of the most terrifying experiences you can imagine while flying back to Mexico City. About an hour into the flight, with the weather clear and the plane running perfectly, he suddenly noticed something glinting near his right wing. It was a silver disc-shaped object, around 13 feet long. Before he could even process it, an identical disc appeared on his left wing, and then, to make things even worse, a third disc came hurling straight at him, barely missing the plane. At that point, Carlos realized he couldn't control the aircraft anymore. He tried moving the controls, but the plane would not respond. In a panic, he called air traffic control, frantically explaining that he'd lost control and was surrounded by UFOs. Then the plane suddenly started climbing, just ascending higher and higher into the sky. Carlos thought he was surely about to die here. There was just no way out, nothing he could do. But miraculously, just as suddenly as this chaos began, the 3 objects just shot off into the distance, and the plane's controls started responding normally again. He was finally able to stabilize the aircraft and continue his flight safely. Of course, this left him shaken for years though. A terrifying incident where he felt completely powerless against something that defied all logic and explanation. And finally, from Reddit user Yo Ra Dreaming comes the story of the footsteps. Overnight transatlantic 777 during the height of the pandemic. Middle of the night, I want to stretch my legs, so I go for a walk down the back of the aircraft and back up the other aisle. Only a handful of passengers on board, and most are sleeping. There's no one down the back, and So as I start back up the other side, I hear what sounds like the cadence of a child's footsteps behind me. I figure some little kid has seen me going down the other aisle and followed me, so I turn around to say hi. Nothing there. Kicking off the list today with the haunting of the Ammons family. There was a lot going on with this case. It's similar to some of the stuff Ed and Lorraine dealt with, but it would have terrified them for sure. This whole situation played out back in 2011, and it became one of the most well-documented possession/haunting cases in recent years. Latoya Ammons and her family moved into a rental house in Gary, Indiana, where they soon began experiencing terrifying and inexplicable paranormal events. The family reported hearing footsteps, creaking floors, and voices, especially during the night when the house was quiet. That's your more standard spooky haunted house stuff, but even crazier, the young ones allegedly started levitating, floating above their beds or being thrown across the room by some unseen force. Latoya and her children also began displaying signs of possession. They were speaking in deep voices, growling, and demonstrating unnatural strength and aggression. The house was also infested with flies, even during the winter months. Several witnesses, healthcare professionals, social workers, and even police officers who filed official reports stating that they had witnessed unusual and unexplained phenomena in the house, so it doesn't seem like this was just the family spouting stuff off. Number 9, the Kamuki House. This is said to be one of the most haunted houses in Hawaii. In 1941, police responded to a frantic phone call from a woman screaming about her family being attacked. Authorities rushed to the scene, and when they got there, they reported seeing a young boy, his 3 sisters, and their mother, who made the phone call, being tossed around by a seemingly invisible force. A similar horrific incident would happen in the home 30 years later, which police would also report on. Luckily, the home has since been torn down. Condos sit on the property now. As to what was responsible for these odd cases, local legend has it that there was a vengeful corpse that had been buried on the property. Next up, we have the S.K. Pierce Mansion. The house was built in 1875 by Sylvester Knowlton Pierce, a wealthy chair manufacturer. It changed ownership multiple times, but everyone who lived there seemed to have a real lousy time. The home served various purposes. At one point, it was a boarding house, hotel, a restaurant, and during all this time, as ownership changed hands and people moved in and out, some residents never left. The ghosts. In 1965, the home was owned by Ennio Sari, a World War II vet who met his end after being burned alive in his bedroom. The cause of the fire? Not 100% certain. His bed just seemed to mysteriously catch fire. People who would visit that same room later on would often describe the faint smell of something burning. A couple by the name of Edwin Gonzalez and Lillian Otero moved into the home in 2009, and they were only able to stay in the place for 2 years. They had a list of creepy experiences, but it was actually their neighbors who would tell them about this next thing. The folks next door would look out their window on occasion and see a little blonde-haired boy running through the couple's house. Edwin and Lillian didn't have kids. The couple would also report seeing a woman believed to be Mrs. Pierce and a young child, possibly her daughter. They'd also hear unexplained voices and whispers and conversations in seemingly empty rooms. And at number 7 is the Lizzie Borden house. The Lizzie Borden house, located in Fall River, Massachusetts, is infamous for the brutal death of Andrew and Abby Borden that occurred there in 1892. On August 4th, 1892, Andrew and Abby Borden were found dead in their home. Lizzie Borden, Andrew's daughter, was accused of the attack but was acquitted during her trial. The case remains unsolved, and the true identity of the perp has never been definitively proven. Guests claim to have seen apparitions of Lizzie Borden and her parents throughout the house. Some have reported seeing the figures of a man and woman believed to be Andrew and Abby Borden in different rooms. At number 6, we have the Michael Taylor possession. We've heard of some cases where exorcism supposedly worked, but there are a lot more that failed, or in this case, ended in total tragedy. There's a good chance this man was far beyond anything Ed and Lorraine Warren would have been able to deal with. The Michael Taylor possession case, which occurred in Ossett, England in 1974, is one of the most disturbing exorcism cases in recent years. Michael Taylor was a 31-year-old married man with 5 children. He started experiencing behavioral changes in erratic episodes, exhibiting signs of aggression while claiming to be tormented by evil spirits. He was part of a local Christian group called the Christian Fellowship Group, led by Mary Robinson and her husband, Pastor Ray Robinson. The Robinsons and other members of the Christian Fellowship Group decided to conduct an exorcism on Michael that ended up lasting for an entire night. Taylor displayed violent behavior. He would attack the participants. He would growl, speak in tongues. After the prolonged exorcism sessions, Taylor was declared free of the demonic entities by the group, but shortly after returning home, he ended up taking the life of his wife, Christine, in a frenzied attack. When police arrived at the scene, they found Taylor covered in red, strolling down the street in a completely detached state. Taylor ended up being acquitted on the grounds of insanity and was sent to a psychiatric hospital for treatment, which is what should have happened long before. Number 6, Baby Blue. This game is similar to Bloody Mary, but you can't do it with friends. If you're gonna play this game, you gotta go in alone. Go into the bathroom, turn off all the lights, lock the door. Maybe switch that around and lock the door before you turn off the lights. Then you hold your arms out in front of you as if you're cradling a baby. Then you're going to repeat out loud 13 times, Baby Blue, Blue Baby, while rocking your arms gently back and forth like you're cradling the baby. At some point, you may start to feel your arms getting heavier, as if there is a real baby in your arms. Don't hold on to it for too long though. You need to mime flushing it down the toilet. Otherwise, a woman will appear in your mirror demanding her baby back, and if it's still in your arms, it's game over for you, because apparently for this ghost, gently cradling their infant in your arms, I'll kill you! Flush it down the toilet? Yeah. Sure. Number 5, Queen of Spades. For this game, you're going to need a Queen of Spades card, a mirror, some lipstick, and a candle. Place the face of the card up against the mirror, light your candle, and place it in front of the mirror. Next, shut off the lights. Then you're going to use the lipstick to draw a door with a set of stairs leading from it on the mirror. Once that's done, take a step back, close your eyes, and repeat 3 times, Queen of Spades, come. Now, make sure to concentrate very hard on imagining the Queen of Spades opening the door and ascending the stairs. You may hear a slight sound of footsteps at this point. Then you're going to slowly open your eyes, and if it's worked, there she'll be staring back at you from the mirror. At this point, you can ask for a wish. Now, if it looks like the woman is getting closer, or you can feel as if you're having a hard time breathing, you need to end the game. Say Queen of Spades, go away, before quickly wiping off the lipstick drawing, then turn on the lights, blow out the candle. Next up, we have Berserk. Now, Berserk is actually a video game released in 1980 by Stern Electronics. It's a classic arcade game where players control this humanoid character moving through a maze that's filled with robots. The objective was to destroy the robots while avoiding their attacks. This game gained popularity or notoriety for its simple yet addictive gameplay, and there was like this speech synthesis involved, which included phrases like intruder alert and the humanoid must not escape. Back then, that was just really cool. Alongside with its success though, the game became a bit of a center of an urban legend, claiming that the game was cursed. The legend originated from several incidents involving players who died shortly after achieving high scores. One notable case involved a teenager named Peter Burkowski who reportedly suffered a heart attack and died immediately after achieving a record-breaking score. Number 3, Daruma-san, aka the bath game. So, what you're going to do is run a bath, then turn off the lights and position yourself in the bath facing the faucet. Then close your eyes and begin to wash your hair. And as you wash your hair, you repeat out loud, Daruma-san fell down. Daruma-san fell down. Soon, the image of a Japanese woman will appear in your mind, standing in the bathtub where she then slips and falls, hitting her head on a rusty tap. One of her eyes will pop out. Then you'll feel that someone else is in the bathtub with you. Make sure you keep your eyes closed and then ask, why did you fall in the bathtub? Now slowly get out of the tub and leave the bathroom. Don't turn the lights on. Don't drain the water, just go to bed. Once morning comes, she'll be after you. Go about your usual business, but when you sense the presence of the one-eyed woman getting a little too close for comfort, yell Tomare. This is to give you a bit of time to get further away from her. You can't let her catch you or it's game over, which means you die. And before the clock strikes midnight, you need to end the game or she'll end you. To end the game, you must look over your right shoulder, and when you manage to catch a glimpse of her, shout Kita while making a chopping motion with your arm. This cuts her loose, and the game is over. Number 2, the telephone ritual. Now, in order to play this game, you need to be in a house, a building, an apartment, whatever. There just can't be anyone else there, not even a pet. Yes, this is another one of those games you need to be brave enough to play alone. You also need a flashlight, a bag of salt, your cell phone, and wherever you are needs to have a landline. So most of you probably already moving on to the next one. I don't know, maybe you could stay late at the office, wait for everyone to go home or something, get your grandparents out of the house for an hour. You'll figure it out. You just get it done. So to start, you're going to pour a line of salt on the outside of the bathroom door. Yes, another creepy bathroom game. Toilet humor and toilet horror, the staples of childhood. Then you turn off all the lights in the house, make sure it's pitch dark, go into the bathroom, lock the door, and turn on your flashlight. Point the flashlight at the toilet, then pull out your cell phone and call your landline. Someone might just answer. Not sure what pointing the flashlight at the toilet has to do with it, but it's just part of the ritual. And coming in at number 1, we have the little finger game. Now, unlike the other games on this list, you don't need anything besides a computer or phone to look up the little finger game story that you're going to need to read in order to play. But hang on, before you do that, just know that as soon as you read the story, the game has begun, whether you like it or not. So maybe wait until I give you the lowdown on this one. You find the story, you read it. It's a short story, you can read it in your head or out loud, up to you, and that's it. Then you just wait. This game takes place in your dreams. Within 7 days or so after reading the story, you'll have a dream, and in said dream, a woman will come to you asking for help, searching for her little finger. You'll have a choice between 2 answers, yes or no. Say yes, and make sure you find that finger. If you're not prepared to do all that, then don't read the story, because if you can't find that finger, then I don't know what happens. I haven't read the story. I don't want to. This next case was supposedly classified by the US government, but details have been leaked over the years. So the story goes that back in 2002, a group of US special forces were on a mission in Afghanistan near Kandahar. They were patrolling a remote area when they came across a cave. As they got closer, they noticed a bunch of broken military gear, stuff that looked like it belonged to another unit, but where were the soldiers? Suddenly, out of nowhere, this massive figure came charging out of the cave. It was a humanoid creature about 12 to 15 feet tall with fiery red hair, wearing what looked like animal pelts, and it was armed with a massive spear. The soldiers opened fire, but it took this barrage of shots to finally bring the creature down. The giant's body was then taken away, and the soldiers were told to keep quiet about the incident. The official story, as you might guess, doesn't exist. There's no record of this happening, at least none that's been released to the public.
During a US soldier's second deployment to Iraq, something incredibly strange happened. While out one night on watch duty, he spotted someone carrying what he believed to be an IED, an improvised explosive device, and so the soldier ordered his sniper to take the man out. The sniper fired once, the man went down, and the soldier notified his superiors and the cleanup crew over the radio, as any casualties were to be bagged and brought into the Iraqi police station. When the team arrived to retrieve the body, they ran into a slight problem. There was no body to be found, and no sign of one ever having been there in the first place. No red trail trails, no discarded IED, nothing. The soldier was reprimanded by his superiors, but as the soldier said, a lot of weird happens in war, so eventually the incident was water under the bridge. That is until a few years later, at a local Iraq bar. The soldier sat down to have a drink with a fellow army man in another unit. In passing, the soldier mentioned the invisible man, as he called him. Immediately, the fellow army man perked up and shared a story in which a man was taken out by a sniper, but then suddenly disappeared without a trace. The soldier froze. How could that be possible? And then he got to thinking, what if what he had seen was in fact a ghost? Then that would mean there is an afterlife, and if there's an afterlife, he wondered, what will happen to me when I go? Will the invisible man be waiting for me? Or perhaps will I become the invisible man myself?
Jefferson Barracks is a military base in Missouri. It's become rather notorious for a hostile ghost said to stalk the grounds. Jefferson Barracks is the oldest operating U.S. military installation west of the Mississippi River, so it has a lot of history, and some say its fair share of lingering spirits. The most famous being a guard who took a bullet to the head during a munitions raid. He's known for being a total a-hole, and soldiers who are on guard duty at the barracks just have to deal with him. Guards have claimed to encounter the restless spirit, challenging them to a fight. Imagine standing there trying to do your job, and suddenly there's a dead guy wanting to throw down with you. It's said that some soldiers have been so freaked out by this that they've abandoned their posts. No surprise there.
In 2010, while stationed for 90 days in southwest Paktika, Iraq, a US soldier had either a paranormal or possibly an extraterrestrial experience while out patrolling one night. At first, things were normal, until the soldier's military GPS device began acting up. Eventually, it started working again, but the soldier couldn't shake the feeling that the points on the GPS system had somehow shifted. He reloaded the map, but for some reason, his terrain still wasn't matching up with his system. The soldier then checked in with a fellow officer who confirmed that the GPS was working just fine, and that the location displayed on the device was in fact correct. The officer left, and the soldier decided to pull out his IR strobe device, which is basically a device that allows for covertly identifying and tracking personnel. And then all of a sudden, the soldier's skin started to feel as though it was humming. He looked up into the night sky full of stars and watched as something began to black out the entire night sky. He knew it couldn't be a plane or a helicopter or even a drone, just something big moving at almost an impossibly slow rate. And then everything went black. Next thing the soldier knew, he was waking up in the middle of the day in a mud hut. In the weeks that followed, the soldier often saw strange lights in the sky and felt the unsettling humming underneath his skin. Years later, during the soldier's retirement process, he had a number of x-rays taken, one of which revealed a small piece of what looked like plastic but was, according to doctors, probably made of metal, embedded in his right forearm. To this day, neither the soldier nor his doctors have any idea what it could be, but the soldier can't shake the feeling that it probably has something to do with that strange night in the southwest of Paktika, Iraq.
The Attack of the Dead Men. Anyone interested in World War I history has likely heard this story about an army of undead Russian soldiers descending on the Germans, forcing them to retreat. What's incredible about this story, though, is that it wasn't actually paranormal at all, but it sounds like it is, and the German soldiers certainly thought they were witnessing something from the beyond. They were utterly petrified, and for good reason. On August 6th, 1915, over 7,000 Germans stormed the Russian Auschwitz fortress located in what is now northeastern Poland. They bombarded the Russian troops with poison gases and were preparing to swoop in and take the fortress with little to no resistance. But then, out of the haze, came soldiers with faces covered in cloth. Their faces and uniforms also stained red with their own BLOOD. Some had even coughed up bits of their own lungs, and then there was their skin. It had begun to decay. They looked like walking corpses. So the Germans, understandably, turned tail and ran as fast as they could as the Russians continued firing at them. It's one of the wildest World War I stories.
Number 7, Mudhouse Mansion. Coming from Fairfield County, Ohio, the Mudfield Mansion was built a while back, so it's so old it's actually debated when exactly it was built. Best guess so far is that it was built around the mid-1800s. 1800s. Good time for ghosts. I've heard those are great ghost years. The building was demolished, so if you're thinking about grabbing a flashlight and Ouija board, sit your butt down, mister. It's gone. It was last sold to the Hartman family back in 1920s, but come the 30s, it was completely abandoned. So the ghost stories naturally came in. More than fair, it looks haunted. Ghost stories would naturally come about just walking by that place. I included this one today on our list because this is where the Bloody Mary urban legend all kicked off. A family moved in, or at least tried to, when after they were seen unboxing everything, they all just suddenly vanished. Locals were curious who the new arrivals were and why they were so quiet right after they just moved in, but eventually police went to go check on them and they were just gone. They were just not there. This property is loaded with numerous urban legends just like that. The locals don't miss it at all. Like I said, it was demolished in 2015. RIP, see you later, ghost house. Bye, Bloody Mary. Number 6. 455A Sacket Street. Not to be confused with 221B Baker Street, 455A Sacket Street is a haunted apartment in Brooklyn. So no, it's not Sherlock's apartment. Imagine moving to the big city, okay, New York, a busy city that's known for being loud, for being active. And on top of that, not being able to sleep, now you have ghosts. One lady who grew up in the apartment experienced these hauntings herself. Fires would just start randomly, there'd be loud bangs in other rooms. All around just bad vibes, which given what I said seems more than fair. Sightings were common, evaporations, but it was always the same female looking spirit. It was always seen via a mirror. And that, my friends, is why I don't look into mirrors ever. Number 5. Haunted hotel. I knew tons of people who enjoy staying at a hotel. Like, it's cozy. I'm not one of those people, okay? I don't like hotels. Every time I'm in one, I'm always way too cold. I always think it's haunted. I'm shivering the entire night. If it was the Hotel Monte Vista in Flagstaff, Florida, however, it would for sure be haunted. When it first opened in 1927, it was home to speakeasies, gambling, just shady stuff at the time. A lot of smoke in a lot of rooms, Peaky Blinders and all that kind of stuff. Many of these rooms were haunted, of course, or it wouldn't be on this list. Specifically, the room 220. The TV would change channels by itself. Guests have felt cold hands touch their body at night. See, already at this point, I'm out. See ya. I'd get untucked and I'd be out of the door. Sometimes guests would also hear knocking on the door in the middle of the night with a small faint voice on the other end announcing room service. I would throw up. I'd look through the door and go, oh, no one's there, and then immediately puke on all of my shoes. This is why I don't do hotels. Number 4. Castle Spirit. This one is the most recent, so buckle up. Tony Ferguson was filming a castle in England. He was admiring the old beauty of this castle, but when the 33-year-old looked back on his footage, he first thought that he missed out on a prank. He laughed at first looking at this footage. He couldn't believe what he saw. Check it out. Is this ghost figure moving behind the window? Is this a person? What's going on here? This was at Houska Castle in Hampshire. He also recalls that nobody could have moved around in that space at all. This wasn't the first time the spirit has visited that place. A time before, Tony said at first when he saw it, it was like this white mist, but then other accounts, it's like a white clay kind of fog looking. It changes forms, basically. It's definitely a ghost. I was asking to show itself and the white mist flew straight at my camera. I mean, this time around, you got footage of something moving. Whatever it is, it's in a video. I get more creeped out. It's harder to fake, but it's a video, basically, that's for sure. What are your thoughts? Is this convincing? It's kind of convincing. Number 3. Raynham Hall. This one is a classic. If you haven't seen this photo, really, honestly, good for you. You've made it this far, you're lucky. This is one of the only convincing ghost photos that I've seen. Raynham Hall, England. Okay, this tale kicked off back in 1936 after a photo went around through Country Life magazine. Pretty much a viral photo back in 1936, and it's haunting. It's a spirit wearing a brown gown, and it's casually just floating down a staircase. Legend has it the spirit is that of one Dorothy Townshend. She was the sister of Robert Walpole, the first Prime Minister of Britain back in 1676. Some reports say the image is a result of a long exposure gone wrong. Honestly, either way, I don't want to know. This is terrifying to look at. Number 2. The demonic boy. It doesn't matter where or when, but odds are you've definitely seen this photo at some point. Normally you want to find something that looks fake about a haunted photo, but with this one, it's kind of tough. This photo was taken inside the Amityville house in 1976. It's a young boy with glowing white eyes. It was taken with an automatic camera that was equipped with infrared, and it makes it even creepier how the boy looks like he's peeking around the corner. A photographer named Gene Campbell took it, and Gene was working with paranormal investigators, you guessed it, Ed and Lorraine Warren at this time. This photo was revealed 3 years after it was taken on the Merv Griffin show, and many believe this is the ghost of John DeFeo, one of the boys who lived there prior during that 1974 event. We're still trying to cover this. What do you guys think? Elaborate hoax, or perhaps this photo is one solid piece of evidence that the Amityville house is indeed haunted? And finally, number 1, the Shining hotel spirit. I saw The Shining once when I was younger, and nope, not for me, my friends. I couldn't understand that horror movies were just movies, right? So that one did a number on my young brain. The Stanley Hotel in Colorado is now quite famous for its use in the Stanley Kubrick 1980 classic, The Shining. With the lodge being over 100 years old, it has a pretty decent chance of actually being haunted in real life, let's be honest. They have spirit tours, which are usually just for tourists, whatever, but when Jay Mosling was on one of these tours, they snapped a few pics of random areas, the classic, flash on of course. After the trip, he was going through the photos and he found this gem. It appears to be a spirit or demon, ghost, apparition, something that's horribly scary and floating, and it also has long black hair, it appears. The room was of course empty at the time this photo was taken, and honestly, I kind of believe that. Can't just snap photos of random people, that's, what's that called? Oh, a crime. You gotta go chill in the broom closet by yourself and just wind up a disposable camera. That's what ghost hunting's all about. I'm taking notes from Jay, he's doing this whole thing correctly.
It seems like a lot of people like blaming things on the paranormal, but what if I told you there's usually a scientific answer for everything? So let's take a look at some paranormal mysteries that have been solved by scientists. First off, we have Falls. Taylor Glacier in East Antarctica has something very strange going on, as there's a red river that runs across it. At the mouth of the glacier, the river tumbles over a cliff into Lake Bonny, looking exactly like its name. Now, what caused normal water to turn bright red? Well, scientists have been questioning this since its discovery in 1911. Originally, algae were considered the culprits, but this hypothesis was never verified. What has been discovered by scientists associated with the University of Alaska Fairbanks is that oxidized iron in brine water gives Falls its unusual color, as the iron in the salt water, making contact with oxygen in the air, oxidizes in effect, rusts, and dyes the water red. Now, the salt water makes its way to the edge of the glacier from the underground lake, as pressure forces the water through the glacier's fissures and channels in a journey that takes 1.5 million years. Now, the water wouldn't flow at all, of course, if it were frozen, but it avoids freezing because latent heat associated with water freezing, the water supersaturation in salt, and the high pressure at the base of the glaciers maintain the salt water at temperatures above freezing. So this is just a really weird, cool science reason why it exists. Up next is the sailing stones of Death Valley. In parts of California's Death Valley, stones sail across the desert floor, leading trails in the sand, and it seems like they do it all on their own. Now, the stones, much like the name suggests, seem to be moving, usually with long, clear tracks behind. For a long time, no one had a clue what made them do it, as the winds in the valley were hardly strong enough to move large boulders. Some people suggested aliens, though why aliens would show up unnoticed to move rocks in a remote valley in California called Death's Valley was anyone's guess. Now, this had been a mystery for a long time, as they were first discovered in the early 1900s, but in 2011, two researchers, Richard D. Norris and his cousin James M. Norris, placed their own rocks with GPS devices and recorded them for over 2 years. A thin layer of ice that formed during the night in the winter months and broke off during the day, causing the stones to slide off and leave tracks. Now, on their best days, the rocks could move at speeds of over 15 feet per minute. So no, it was not aliens doing this. Now onto the alien of Atacama. In 2003, a skeleton was discovered in South America's Atacama Desert. Now, what was so mysterious about it was that it was only 6 inches tall, had 10 ribs instead of 12, giant eye sockets, and a pointy skull. Sounds like an alien, right? Well, DNA analysis done in 2018 on the skeleton showed that it had a rare bone aging disorder, as well as other genetic mutations in genes associated with dwarfism, scoliosis, and abnormalities in muscles and the skeleton. Now, the researchers identified 64 unusual mutations in 7 genes linked to the skeletal system, and they noticed that finding so many mutations that specifically affect the skeletal development had never been reported before. Now, in this case, these mutations are so rare that we haven't actually ever seen some of these before, so it's hard to imagine there are carriers out there. We do speculate that the environment they were developing might have played a role, as the specimen was found in a town with abandoned nitrate mines, and exposure to nitrates might have caused the mutations, but it's only speculation. Now, a subsequent study questioned these results, but it seemed to all be agreed that this was indeed a human skeleton and not that of an alien. Moving on to the Windsor hum. The Windsor hum was first reported in 2011 when the residents of the city of Windsor in Ontario, Canada, suddenly started hearing a continuous, barely audible hum. Now, in the years since, conspiracy theorists as well as serious scientists have floated multiple theories to explain it, though to little success. Now, the mystery lasted until April 2020 when the forced multiple factories across the US to stop production. That included a US steel plant operating on Zug Island in Detroit, which was just across the river from Windsor. Now, the hum, as it turns out, was coming from its overworked blast furnaces, which in turn shook the plant's metallic foundation and produced a constant, low-frequency hum that can't be easily detected. Now, the sound went away as soon as the furnaces were shut down, and I'm sure that the residents of Windsor were happy that the noise was finally gone. Now let's talk about the WebDriver Torso YouTube account. In 2013, people began to notice a rather strange YouTube account posting really weird slideshows, accompanied by even weirder beeping sounds. Commenters said that the videos, which were usually 11 seconds long and featured colored rectangles moving around on a white screen, were a spy code, an alien code, or recruitment searches for expert hackers. But in 2014, we found out who was behind the account. It was none other than Google. Now, the YouTube parent company revealed it was using the account to test the quality of YouTube videos. From September 30th, 2016 to October 31st, 2019, the channel uploaded a total of 624,774 videos. Now, the channel stopped uploading on May 4th, 2017, but resumed uploading on May 18th, 2018, until another halt 4 days later. Now, a video was uploaded on November 16th, 2020, and was then quickly deleted, but as of right now, the latest video uploaded by WebDriver Torso was on November 1st, 2023. Then we have the underwater crop circles. In 1995, divers noticed a beautiful, strange circular pattern on the seafloor off Japan, and soon after, more circles were discovered nearby. Some liken these formations to underwater crop circles, and the geometric formations mysteriously came and went, and for more than a decade, nobody knew who or what made them. Now, finally, it was discovered, a newly discovered species of pufferfish. Now, further studies showed that these small pufferfish make the ornate circles to attract mates. Males laboriously flap their fins as they swim along the seafloor, resulting in disrupted sediment and amazing circular patterns. Although the fish are only about 5 inches long, the formations they make are about 7 feet in diameter. Now, when the circles are finished, females come to inspect them. If they like what they see, they reproduce with the males, said Hirshari Kwaz, the curator of the Coastal Branch of Natural History Museum Institute in Chiba, Japan. But no one knows exactly what the females are looking for in these circles or what traits they find desirable. This new pufferfish's geometric patterns have 3 features that have never been seen before. First, they involve radially aligned ridges and valleys outside the nest site. Second, the male decorates these ridges with fragments of shells. And third, the male gathers fine sediments to give the resulting formation a distinctive look and coloring. But hey, I think it just looks cute. Now we have the mystery of the crystal skulls. Archaeologists and explorers discovered crystal skulls during the 19th and early 20th centuries, leading to speculation and myths surrounding their origin. Some of the skulls were life-sized, while others were miniatures. Many believe that these artifacts belonged to ancient Mesoamerican civilizations and held mystical or supernatural powers. Now, some people even said that they were left by aliens who had visited Earth long before recorded history. Now, a total of 13 were found and dispersed around the world, and someone created a myth that if the 13 skulls were ever reunited in the same place, secrets vital to the survival of the human species would be revealed. Experts discovered that these crystal skulls were not ancient artifacts at all. Modern tool marks on the skulls revealed that they were made using 19th century techniques, such as the rotary wheel, which would have been foreign to ancient South Americans, decisively proving that they were not the ancient relics many had believed them to be. Onto spontaneous human combustion. Spontaneous human combustion refers to the death from fire originating without an apparent external source of ignition, a belief that the fire starts within the body of the victim. Now, in the past 300 years, there have been roughly 200 accounts of humans spontaneously bursting into flames. Now, the rare phenomenon has been attributed to the supernatural, obesity, and intestinal gases. But forensic experts say the prevalent scientific explanation is known as the wick effect, which proposes that humans can act like candles do. In 1998, as part of a BBC television program, scientists in the UK replicated similar conditions with a dead pig. They wrapped the pig in a blanket before lighting it on fire, and the pig's feet were left behind, exactly the result of many reported cases of spontaneous human combustion. The wick theory suggests that fat acts as a fuel source, and a human body is kept aflame through its own fat after being ignited. Blankets and clothing, meanwhile, act like a candle wick, and because hands and feet have less fat, they don't provide enough fuel to be entirely consumed by a flame. So don't worry about randomly bursting into flames, because that can't happen. Next up, we have the lost colony of Roanoke. In August 1587, a party of about 115 English settlers arrived on Roanoke Island, off the coast of present-day North Carolina. Later that year, it was decided that John White, governor of the new colony, would sail back to England in order to gather a fresh load of supplies. While White was away, war broke out between England and Spain, and he couldn't return to the island until 1590. The only clue he found was the word Croatoan carved into a tree. Croatoan was the name of an island south of Roanoke that was home to a Native American tribe of the same name. Now, theories about the settlers' disappearances include them having their lives ended by indigenous people or Spanish colonists, and others think they could have gotten lost. But in August 2020, researchers came to a simple conclusion. The colonists simply left, along with some of their indigenous allies, and settled on Hatteras Island, 60 miles away. And lastly, we have weeping statues. Weeping religious statues, often the Virgin Mary, have been reported in Italy, Hungary, Argentina, and Mexico, among other countries. Now, you know when people claim that the statues cry, or that they're even crying. Now, everyone thinks this is a religious miracle, but scientists have other thoughts. Creating a fake weeping statue is relatively easy, and sometimes it happens naturally through condensation, but typically even the most innovative approaches are not too complicated, IFL Science explains. Hoaxers can inject liquid into the porous surfaces of a statue or spread oil on its eyes, causing tears to drip down once temperatures rise. According to The Conversation, in 2 cases of statues that wept, one in Canada in 1986 and another in Italy in 2006, the blood turned out to be that of the statue's owner. Now, not all weeping statues are deliberate hoaxes though, as in 2012, a skeptical investigator in India traced a weeping statue of Jesus to a clogged drainage pipe behind the statue, and he left the country facing death threats and charges of blasphemy for exposing the miracle.
Going to kick off the list with Suji Ura. In the West, this is known as the Crossroads game, but it has its origins in Japan. For this game, all you'll need is a comb, something to cover your face with, a friend, and a crossroads. I'm telling you to bring a friend because this game is played at night, and I'm not encouraging anyone to go out alone and do this, especially if you're younger. Do not do this, kids. So you go out to a crossroads at night with your friend, and you run your finger across the teeth of the comb 3 times while repeating 3 times, Suji Ura, Suji Ura, grant me a true response. Then you just wait. If someone you know approaches the crossroad, the ritual has failed, but if a stranger starts approaching, cover your eyes with the item you've brought with you and ask them to tell you your fortune. Now be ready for whatever they answer. Do not uncover your face until the stranger walks away. This is why I'm not recommending that you do this one. You don't want to be talking to a stranger and covering your face. Alright, so just proceed with caution. Next up, we have the picture game. Now ideally, you'll have a few people to play this one, but you can play it with just 2 of you as well. So here's what you'll need: a string, a small mirror, 1 for each player, a camera with the flash on, a glass with a bit of alcohol, wine works well, and a pair of scissors. So to start, you're going to tie your string in a circle. Put the string in the middle of the room with your glass in the middle of the circle. Have everyone sit around the string holding their mirrors, pointing them at the ceiling. Next, turn off them lights. It's something you're going to hear a lot in this video. Next, everyone closes their eyes, and while holding hands, each person says out loud, "I trust you," followed by everyone repeating 3 times in unison. If this ritual has worked, you've now invited something into the room, which you can now try and snap a picture of. Start passing your camera around the circle, and each person who gets it says out loud, "I caught you," before snapping a picture with the flash on. Now, before you stop, you need to formally end the game. Everyone closes their eyes and repeats 3 times, "It is time to go home." Then you point your mirrors face down, cut the string, and dispose of the alcohol in the glass. If all this has worked, you can start going through the pictures now, and you might see something lurking in the background. The elevator game. For this one, you'll just need access to an elevator with 10 floors, and like with most of these games, playing it at night is probably ideal. So in order to play, enter the elevator and proceed to reach various floors in a sequence. Make sure there's no stranger getting on the elevator with you. If they do, you'll just have to start over again. But you can play with friends. So start by ascending to the 4th floor, then go back down to the 2nd, go back up to the 6th floor, then back down to the 2nd again. At this point, some people say they hear a strange voice calling to them from that 2nd floor, but don't respond, just proceed to the 10th floor. And once you reach the 10th, head back down to the 5th. It's very important that you don't get off the elevator at any point throughout this sequence. Once at the 5th floor, it's said that a mysterious woman may enter the elevator. Don't make eye contact or interact with her in any way. Now, hit the 1st floor button. If the elevator takes you to the 1st floor, then leave the elevator, do not look behind you. But if the elevator instead begins going up, then you've now entered into a different world. In order to go back to our world, you'll need to enter back into the elevator you started in and repeat the same sequence as before. Number 7, Red Book. This game originated in Mexico, and if done right, it allows you and your pals to make contact with a ghost. So, you'll need 2 or more people to play. A book with a red hardcover and a red candle. To start, turn off the lights, light your candle, place your hand on the book, and say out loud, "Red Book, can I enter your game?" Next, you keep your eyes shut and open the book to a random page. Place your finger on the page, then open your eyes, and whatever sentence your finger is placed on is the answer to your question. Now, if the sentence just doesn't make any sense at all, then congratulations, there's probably no spirit in your house. If the sentence does fit as a response, then you'll either proceed with the game or not proceed with the game, depending on what the response is. Something closer to a yes or closer to a no. If you do proceed with playing, everyone takes turns asking questions until you decide to end the game. At which point, you'll all need to ask Red Book, "Can I leave your game?" And you'll need to receive something along the lines of a yes before you can stop. So yeah, you could be playing this one for a while.
In our number 5 spot, we have the Mountain Lion. This storyteller had a friend that was constantly having nightmares and couldn't sleep, and so he went over to his friend's house to stay the night. He had a hard time sleeping, but when he finally fell asleep, he woke up suddenly and saw a weird black creature the size and shape of a mountain lion crawl out of his friend's closet and go to the edge of the bed. It put its paw up on the bed as if it was feeling for whatever was on the bed. He did not sleep that night. The next morning, convinced that he was just dreaming, he told his friend about his nightmare, and his friend went as pale as a ghost and she started shaking. She said that was exactly what she had been dreaming about these last few nights when she was having her nightmares. Prior to this, she had never mentioned anything about what she had experienced in her nightmares. Ooh, creepy. I would definitely be a believer after experiencing that kind of situation. In our number 4 spot, we have the mysterious man. This storyteller was never very interested in the paranormal and just chalked it up to being hocus pocus. He lived with his family in the woods and his closest neighbor was close to a mile away, so they were far away from people. One day when he was younger, he was in his living room facing the hallway to the bedrooms when he saw a man walk from one bedroom to the other. He didn't know who it was, so he went to the porch to ask his mom and aunt who the man was. They immediately freaked out and said it was only the 3 of them home, and then they proceeded to search the house to find the man. They found nobody. That was the one and only time he saw the man, but as he reflects on the memory, he's sure that he saw a ghost. In our number 3 spot, we have the bird reincarnation. When this storyteller was young, his uncle took his own life. Before doing so, he had lived with him for 6 months. During that time, his uncle discovered that he had a fear of crows, and his uncle encouraged him to try to work through the fear. One of the last things his uncle said to him was that he was proud of him for trying. After the funeral, on his first day back to school, a crow followed him all the way to school. 6 blocks. This continued to happen every day for a month. At one point, he started calling the crow Jim, his uncle's name, and that is when he was no longer afraid of birds. Not to mention, that is when he started to believe in an afterlife. In our number 2 spot, we have Buddy the dog. This storyteller had a childhood dog by the name of Buddy, and Buddy was a black Rottie/lab mix. When she got older, she moved away from home and Buddy stayed with the family. Her dad had told her to go home for Christmas one year, but she couldn't afford to, so she didn't. Fast forward to a few months later, she was going to have dinner with her dad and boyfriend as her dad was in town visiting her. They stopped at a dog park and an old black Rottie/lab mix dog came running at her full speed, giving her lots of kisses and acting exactly like how her dog did. When they eventually sat down for dinner, her dad got the message that Buddy had passed away. She felt so thankful for the interaction in the park earlier because she believes that it was as if Buddy had said goodbye to her in that park. Aw, that's so sad and beautiful. Makes me miss my puppy. In our number 1 spot, we have the shadow. One night, this storyteller was in bed with her fiance when she looked up and saw something standing at the foot of the bed at her fiance's side. The figure was pitch black and featureless. She thought she was dreaming until she turned to look at her fiance and noticed that he was staring at it too. He quickly and somewhat aggressively sat up, and then whatever it was disappeared. They later found out that everyone in his family has seen this creature and that they call it the shadow. This definitely made her a believer in ghosts. Well, hey, that was fun. If you weren't a believer before, I hope this helped make you one now.